The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. Club 27 is a group of famous stars who all died at the age of 27, usually because of drug-related issues. This list shows that no matter how much success you gain, even in your passion, in like music for example, if you do not feel fulfilled and don't have an alignment within your body and mind, it's going to kill you. There's no amount of money and physical wealth that can't or can prevent for you to destroy yourself from the inside. Because even the richest person alive still loses to a misaligned body. Freedom cannot mean financial freedom if you're addicted to drugs and hookers. Therefore, it should be your main priority to get your mind and body aligned. If this doesn't happen, it is absolutely irrelevant what you accomplish in your life. You are going to be miserable at the end. And if the real goal is well-being for both ourselves and other people, then our alignment with our body should be the utmost priority. So much so that I'd argue that this is what we should be taught in school since we are children. And this should be in top priority of each parent's mind, to teach people how to be content within yourself and to spread this harmony onto others should be the main focus of our current times. But instead, we all get lost in these ego games, which are the games of how rich can you become? How much sex can you have? And how much can you signal to other people that you are having sex and that you have so much wealth? And how much can you control others and have power over other people because you're so wealthy that they do whatever you want? So no matter how much you can signal this to others, you might fuel some narcissistic supply on the short term, which might feel great. Like most egos like to be recognized, and this is a fancy way of saying just people like to be recognized. We want to be seen for who we are. But if the main way we see how we are is through the perception of other people, then we never actually see how we are, but we see the egoic fantasies of other people reflected within us. Like what they imagine your life is like because you are so successful in the dating market, or what they imagine your life is like because you have a wealthy company. And then from the inside, you're actually, miserable and dying inside. So freedom must mean freedom from your own mind. That when you have a thought like, I should go fuck some hookers, that this thought doesn't consume every moment of your life, or less so, that it doesn't consume you in a critical moment of your life. Because it's not about some moral purity testing. Like, it's not that having sex with prostitutes is like a moral shame that should never be done because it is categorically bad to do so. It's more so that most people who engage in this behavior do so from a needy impulse that they do not control. And the same is true for the substances. If your life is absolutely amazing and the drugs are a cherry on top, then it's completely fine, isn't it? Like, there's nothing there that damages anybody, then it might even enrich your life. But again, for most people, this is not the case. Most people take drugs to escape from their problems, and then the problems get worse, and therefore the drug taking gets worse. It is the way we cope that causes the problem with, the seeking and the yearning to change your perception of yourself and your reality. The question always is, what is everybody trying to escape from? how is it possible that you can have everything that any normal, ordinary person wants and then still be so miserable? And then it seems like humanity still hasn't found like a clear cure. We can talk about mental illnesses. We can say you have depression, we can say you have anxiety, we can say you have imposter syndrome, we can say you have ADHD, and we can give all of these neat little labels to things. But where is the cure? Why is there not something that diagnoses people and say this is the issue that you have? My argument is that it all is a misaligned, mismanaged, and malformed ego structure that causes people to be miserable. The ego structure is the structure of your own identity, how you relate your own sense of self to the rest of the world. And your identity is made out of the belief systems and the kind of stories you tell about yourself. But I'm not saying this in some sort of kind of airy-fairy abstract way. My argument is that there's actually an ego structure in your own brain and nervous system that we, in our current scientific understanding, can't yet map out, but that absolutely actually exists through repeated patterning of your habits and the way you think about yourself. This has hardened over your lifetime. And then if this is unsmooth and structured in a way that creates conflict within its own system, which is usually the case by the modern human, then there's something that can be done to restructure the shape of your ego and find harmony within your body-mind system. Now, this isn't really talked about much because it overlaps with a lot of esoteric ideas, both from mystical schools, from ideas about non-duality, ideas about Buddhism and no self, also ideas related to religions and God and humility and devotion. And since we in the West want to be always super scientific and reasonable, we kind of dismiss these ideas for a long time. But there's clearly a renaissance happening now where people are starting to become aware of the fact that the ego is clearly a real thing, and that through various practices, be it meditation, be it psychedelics, be it other practices, there are actually a lot that can shift your sense of identity. You might argue that all life is kind of a shift in identity over a long period of time. And through these practices, you can dissolve the hardened material of your own ego architecture and then restructure something new. There is a concept that I learned through the Qualia Research Institute that is called neural annealing, which is how we bend metals by injecting more energy through them, like we do this through heat. And then through the heat, the metal basically softens and gets the ability to restructure itself with new materials. And then it becomes hardened again. And when you meditate and you focus on a sensation, like whatever sensation you want, it could be like the fire of a candle, it could be just whatever you have in front of your eyes, or classically the breath, you introduce through concentration energy in the system. And through this energy, you soften the material of your ego architecture. And then through the softening and reintegrating, and in this process, you might experience some fear, some sadness, some old memories coming up. Then by witnessing exactly these memories and these parts of yourself that you have rejected, you restructure yourself into a new and healthy shape. And this also can work through one-on-one interaction with people. That's what I do in my ego architecture audits. This can also work if you're, for example, protesting down the street for some political issue, and you have all of these people screaming their lungs out for like some cause they care about. This would also be an example where your ego gets basically softened, gets extremely vulnerable by the energy in your environment, and then you might install some new political ideologies in that process. So this is not just an isolated idea of how you can overcome your own friction and hatred for existence, but my argument is that this is how our own ego integration works. Like, this is how we change as people, and how we change our identities. And for most people who get to the point where they are very wealthy or have a ton of relationships or have success in all of the mainstream society's eyes, then you are likely fueled or have been fueled by classical societal ego mechanisms to even get you to that place. Most people who get very rich and make a ton of money had a very good reason to care a lot about money. And sometimes it is a poor background, wanting to provide for a family with this poor background, and then there might legitimately be like a kind of smooth transition to build something that actually sustains people in the long term. But for a lot of people, it is really about egoic vanity, the need to be somebody special, to be seen as some high value man or high value woman in society, and therefore they need the like wealthy partner. And then it becomes more a way to social signal to other people. And then the social signaling mechanism will always cause a misaligned ego structure, because you're sacrificing your own integrity for the resonance with other people in your environment. And it will always feel fake, and it will always feel inauthentic. And I would argue that most success in modern day society comes from this inauthentic place. And that's why people feel so miserable all the time. And then when you start to annihilate this superficial structure, and you see how much it has been fueled by lies and delusion and self-deception and self-hatred and guilt tripping and all of the stuff, then usually the deconstruction doesn't feel good at all. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm healing. It feels like I'm completely losing my sense of self. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I wasted my entire life doing this stuff that I didn't actually care about. And it feels deeply, deeply existentially troubling. It's not something that feels nice. And then because it doesn't feel nice, you might think you're doing something wrong, but you're not. Like the only way out of the misery that you've created for yourself is through the misery that you have created for yourself. Like you need to process what you have done to your mind and your body before you can move beyond it. And usually there's like a part of extreme despair, hopelessness, also called like the dark night of the soul, which can take longer or be shorter depending on your environment and what kind of resources you have to help you, what support network you have. And then there's like rock bottom, where you feel like there's like no way out. And usually you need to hit rock bottom, like not just in the social sense, not that you need to live on the street or whatever, but mentally you're likely going to be at rock bottom and lose hope in everything before you can reconstruct something new, because the complete architecture must be torn down, and then there's no identity left. And if you've never existed from a place of no identity, then usually there's a lot of clinging that happens there, where the ego still hopes for some objective meaning or purpose, or hopes to be seen as somebody valuable, or hopes that in the future it can gain all of this success again. And in this hope, you see how futile it is. Like there's no way that these things could ever fulfill you. And then instead of hope, you feel hopelessness. But what is so counterintuitive is that you feel hopelessness because your ego is actually hoping for something else. If you weren't hoping for something, then you wouldn't feel hopeless either, because there would just be no hope. Like the concept of hope wouldn't even come up, because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. There's nothing to be hopeful or hopeless about. You just exist as you, and it's okay to exist as you. It's even okay to exist as you without much of an ego structure intact, like an animal, right? Like an animal who is well fed and content, it doesn't think about all of the social hierarchical ego stuff. It just sits and relaxes and just is peaceful because it has all its needs met. And these egoic needs are just like a black hole that will never be met. And if you've had the success, you know this. If you haven't had the success yet, then maybe you'll have to learn. But this doesn't mean that success itself is the problem. And this is where so many people lose themselves in these spiritual narratives, because they think they are beyond the need for financial freedom. It's not that it is the problem, it's that it is secondary. If you find contentment with your own ego structure, and you have found a way to build an ego structure that feels whole by itself and doesn't need the validation of other people, who doesn't need to accomplish anything in order to be okay. A self that is just knowing of what it is like to be itself always and doesn't need external validation to ratify it or to solidify it, and one who can swim in the impermanent change of all experience. From there, you can find authentic desire without neediness, and authentic productivity and ambition without neediness. Then you can build a multi-million-dollar empire, and it doesn't really matter if you can succeed or don't succeed. Then the journey becomes fun. And it will always be the case that if you live a content life, it is because you enjoy the process of living. This means that you enjoy the process of building something and creating something in this process. It's then not about getting to the goal, although this is still motivating, but then you can do pretty much whatever you want, because then everything you accomplish is just the cherry on top. This would then be true for the drugs that you might take or the hookers you might want to fuck. So there's true freedom there when there's no external judgment that tells you that you're allowed to do something or not to do something, because now there's nobody else to judge there but yourself. And you can truly decide what you want to do with your time and your life, and what is correct for you to do or not to do. Maybe you still recognize that all of these hedonistic things will eventually lead you down a path that you don't want for yourself, or don't want to perpetuate. And then this is like a decision that every person can make for their own. And then it is truly a sovereign choice, because it comes from a body and mind that are aligned. And then, if you're really wealthy, you are truly powerful.